What's up, everyone, and welcome back to the Maker's Vault. My name is Shae, and I'm here, as always, with my lovely co-star, my dad, Willie Eichele. Dad, how's it feel to be back in the seat?
It feels good. It's been a little bit, and I'm very excited about knowing where to look. Nobody told me that I need to look at the camera when we do this. I've been looking up there for the first 5, so I'm glad I figured that out myself. I appreciate it.
Well, we were just trying to keep it casual, didn't want to make it too many things for you to think about, right?
All right.
All right, well, today we're going to be talking about the untold stories of sales. Reason we got this topic was because there was a trade show in Cleveland back in April, so it's the PMTS show, and we had listeners stop by the booth, which was really neat. Thank you guys, everybody who stopped by, and some of them had suggested that we do a story talking about kind of the more of the ugly side of things. Everyone's on social media talking about how, oh, I got this sale, I got this sale, I got this sale, but the reality is you don't win them all, and we know that, and it's something you talk about a lot. So to start off the episode, why don't you put it in perspective for the audience about how difficult sales is, especially in our industry.
Well, sales is tough, especially in our industry. I was watching something on TV, and they may not have been talking about manufacturing, but they say that only 10% of the population is really fit to be in sales for a lifetime, especially in a niche market like ours. And our market is pretty nichey. If you're selling copy machines or a commodity of something, it'd be a different type of a situation. But yeah, we live in a world where we lose between 90% and 70% of the time. And so just try to fathom the passion that you need and the vigor that you need to continue to get up every day, fight the fight to lose between 90 and 70% of the time, meaning you only win 10 to 30% of the time. And in engineered products and a lot of the higher end stuff we do, it's 15% is probably the win ratio with formal proposals. So it's it does take special people out there to be able to stick with it, but it's extremely rewarding. It's extremely rewarding.
Well, it's kind of like owning a boat.
It's exactly like owning a boat. Yes.
You know that, right?
Yeah, I know that well. I mean, and the boaters out there, or even people with a hot tub, of course, go down those roads. I mean, the perfect situation is always what makes it worthwhile to deal with all the other mess.
The headaches.
Of the whole boating season, you probably have 3 nights or days where you go out and say, that was perfect. The people were great.
Yeah.
The boat didn't break down. The waves were right. The food was good. It was just awesome. So we'll do it again. But then the next 10 times, it's a nightmare. But
and then
you do it because the winds feel good. You do it because a good day of boating makes all the bad days of boating more tolerable.
Maybe not for boating. Well, I guess this is related to boating, but not to your analogy. I'm just glad, on those lost days, they really affect me because I'm the one that has to come pick you up when the boat breaks down.
That's true. Many times, unfortunately.
But also, I was thinking while you're talking about that, it's kind of like if you're into betting, go to a casino. If you know that you're going to lose anywhere from 70 to 90% of the time, why would you even bet your money?
You wouldn't step foot in there.
Yeah.
You wouldn't put your money or your time in play, but machine tool sales in our industry is different. It's different. If you're built for it, you love it, and it's those wins feel so much better than all the losses. So it keeps you going. I
do want to talk a little bit more about the percentage because I know there's a little more to that. So I think you had told me earlier when you had talked to me about what you were hearing on the TV that 20% are the good salespeople.
Yeah,
and then of those 20%
rule would apply to that 10% of the population.
So it's really it's such a small percentage.
It's such a small percentage, I think, that are what we consider in our organization and in our industry. You know a lot of them. I know a lot of them that are the real racehorses in our space. That are really, really effective. That really have that sixth sense of how to sell, when to sell, what to do, all on their own. It's tough. It's not a lot of people.
So let's go into, why don't you tell us a story to kick us off about, I think the first topic we'll get into is what do you do after you lose an order? So do you have a story about a time that you lost an order? And then we'll kind of talk about after that, what should you do? Whether you're on the distribution side or you're a machine shop trying to sell parts.
Yeah, I mean, I think what you can't do is you can't have a hangover in sales. the sale itself is only one piece of a customer relationship. If you lose an order, the way you handle that, the way you sit back and evaluate yourself, kind of do a post mortem. It's a lot like a football game, since we're talking analogies. You spend 4 quarters beating the heck out of people and really going after it, and then what do you do afterwards? You kind of shake hands, and then what do you do as the player? You watch film and you try to figure out what went wrong. And oftentimes, I think most ball players would say the same thing, that it's simple blocking and tackling skills in football. It's simple blocking and tackling skills in sales that probably screwed you up. That you just didn't do something that you know in hindsight that you should have done. We've got plenty of stories over the years. I mean, a recent one, it wasn't this is one of our salesmen's accounts, but we picked up a new product line, of course, picked up the Mazak product, and a pretty big Mazak house, job shop in town, was pretty frustrated for some of his own doing and some of Mazak's doing, I guess. We weren't around for that, but the bottom line is 24 Mazak machine shop.
Wow.
Bought a couple of other brand machines, which I won't say the name. And that was a painful process. It was painful. We tried. We had about 6 months to try to get things back on track, but we didn't. And so, but you don't give up. We stuck with it as a company. The salesman was on it enough to get our service manager involved, and to get me involved, and get our sales manager involved, and get all the folks at Mazak involved. And over the course of now 2.5 years, last week we shipped that machine off of our floor to them. Machine. Another Mazak mill. So I think, again, no hangovers. You have to take a loss in stride, and you got to look at it as an opportunity. There's no losses, as we always say. Yeah. There's only opportunities to learn, and so if you learn, you're better next time, for sure.
And another thing that you've talked to me about too is sometimes it's not just about losing the order. It's like losing opportunities by not being into certain accounts.
Yeah, that's what I said. It's not just about the purchase order. Yeah. And some people, I see it probably more often than I wish I did. But you get a hot project. Okay, it starts, and it was something that was unsolicited. So somebody came to us and said, "I'm looking at you, this, that guy." That you go through the quoting process. You go through all the emotion of trying to win the order, and you lose it. Mm-hmm. And then they go away. They don't use that as an opportunity. It's still a win. There's a win in every loss. At least you were there. You got an opportunity to advance your relationship with that customer. Now they can see how you handle the loss. People buy from people, right? I always say that. I'll put my bet on people. They normally always do the right thing. So they're going to come back. They're going to say, "I felt bad about that." And the next opportunity, if it's a CMM or if it's automation or if it's a machine 6 months down the road, and then you still win in the long haul. But you have to. You got to take the win in that loss, because it's a long game. Right. It's like a first down. It's not a touchdown. Okay, they got the first down. Now you try to stop them after that. So
you got an opportunity to quote.
That was
getting in.
That was painful. That was painful for 2.5 years. I mean, for us, because we felt responsible because it happened on our dime or on our clock. And but we stuck with it, tried to do all the right things, and in that particular case, it kind of it worked out. At least we have another opportunity. Yeah.
So I do want to talk about how do you recover a relationship with a customer, one way or another, in a little bit, whether it sours for reasons it may have been, and how you have been able to recover some of those relationships. But I do want to tell another story. So do you have another sales story that? Lost and came back because of that persistence?
Yeah, I mean the other one that I mentioned to you earlier was a long time ago. This was right when I got into sales, so this was my account, a bigger account in the Cleveland area, and I worked very hard. It was a hydromet project. It was a 2-machine order, 2-machine sell, with automation, engaging, and all kinds of stuff. We were the incumbent at other divisions of this company. So we kind of had everything covered besides maybe not the best process. There was somebody else out there that did not need a 2-machine cell. There were some new people at this plant, and they decided this is a year-long sales process.
Wow.
And I remember you weren't even born yet. I was in Sheffield Lake, and I was grilling, and the plant manager called me. It was about 7:30. Plant manager calls me on a Friday night too, and says, you always know when it's happening.
Yeah.
Hey, Willie, I wanted to get a hold of you first. Oh, okay, great.
Okay.
But you guys did everything right. You did everything right. Hydromat did everything right. But we decided to go a different direction. You know the direction we went and are going and why and this, that, and the other. And there's your opportunity to show your character, to show your who you are as a person. You don't get upset. You respect their decision. You tell them that, communicate that to them, and then and you let it go. So that's what I did. I thanked them for the opportunity. Got off the phone and certainly behaved a lot differently once I got off the phone.
Mom was probably excited.
But and that one was unique too, and maybe this is a lesson for some people out there. But it was probably 3-4 months later. I got a phone call from one of the owners of Hydromat saying that, hey, this company that they went with is not in good shape, financial shape in Europe. It was in Italy.
Was this after they already bought the machine?
Yeah.
Okay,
They were cutting the order that following week after.
Okay, they told you.
John called me. Yeah. So he called me and told me that, and of course he was in the know because they reached out to Hydromat and wanted to know if Hydromat was interested. So it wasn't just made up story.
Yeah.
So he's like, you treat it however you feel is professional and right. So, I'm not a mudslinger. Never have been, never will be. I think there's so many good people out there that we compete with and that have good equipment and so on and so on. But I did. I called him. I felt obligated to do that. And I called him and said, hey, this isn't a sour grapes deal. This isn't I'm just calling to let you know what I've heard. I've been struggling with how to tell you this, but this is what I know the intel is good.
Happening. Yeah.
So be careful with that. And, they I don't know what they did after that. I can just tell you that a couple months after that, so maybe 6 months into the project that they were working on, the company went belly up, filed for bankruptcy, the equivalent to bankruptcy in Europe. And they did not secure that down payment with the European bank and ended up losing all that. And so, there was no nothing gratifying in it for me or anything like that. But I think that's to your point. Maybe why you wanted me to tell that story is it's the way you handle it. It's the way you handle the loss. It's the way you handle the follow up. Those people that were no longer working there shortly after that happened, I still deal with them today at different companies. Yeah. So it's just how you handle it. It's like anything else in life. Yeah. It's like losing a cheer competition or losing gymnastics. It's the same thing. You can't be a sore loser, and you got to find the win in every loss. That's my motto. Yeah. Well,
and I think that was such a good example of what you talked about earlier, which was you can't hold anything against anybody or like have any sourness towards a customer because you don't get an order. You don't get the order. You hear some news that you knew was good. You went back to them in good faith to let them know because you care, right? You always talk about being like a consultant to the customer and
it has to be genuine.
Really caring.
It has to be genuine, or if it's not, you end up being accused of being like the greasy snake oil salesman or the car salesman, and that's not what most of the people in our industry are. They're value-added people that really care about what their customers are doing. That's what we do. We try to make our customers successful.
Right. So kind of moving away from how to deal with a loss. So, couple highlight points, just, being persistent, not giving up just because you lost an order, learn from your losses, things like that we've talked about. What about repairing a relationship that went sour? So I'm just going to paint a picture. I don't know. I'm sure this has happened to somebody, but let's say you're a machine shop, you send out parts, bad parts, customer gets mad, you lose that order from your customer, or in our sense, something goes wrong on the service side or something goes wrong, customer gets soured, we're done. What do you do at that point? I know a lot of people, maybe that 80% of those salespeople would say, you know what, I'm not even going to touch this. They don't like me. They didn't give me the order. I'm done. I'm shutting it out. What That's not the right thing to do, obviously, but
I would say honesty and communication. I mean, if you're the parts supplier that made bad parts, or if you're the machine tool person that spec'd out the wrong machine, or your service for your organization let the customer down, you have to address those things. You can't just let it itch and itch and itch and itch. You have to own up to where you fell short. And if you're a parts manufacturer, you go get the parts, you do 100% inspect them, you get them back to the customer, you compensate them for their headaches somehow, some way, and you think about the long game, not the short game. In our business, it's the same way. If somebody's upset, you have to look at that as that's your next order, even though there's no purchase order or commissions coming. That's your next win at that account is getting them back in your camp.
Yeah.
And you can do that by, we do that by salesmen will take me in to go see customers. That we'll get people to the factories we represent, or if it's here at our facility, Ultratech, you get them in here. You invite them to our shows. You include them in what we're doing. Again, people are people. They're going to see that this guy's really chipping away to try to keep in good graces or get back in good graces with our company. So I'm going to give them a shot. Sooner or later, it happens.
Sooner or later, it'll click. Another thing, too, that I do kind of want to touch on a little bit is even just generally in life, there's kind of name blaming, no, it's your fault, no, it's your fault, no, it's your fault.
Oh, yeah.
And I know, I've heard some
it's
pretty
always
stories.
The sales guy's fault.
It's always
been dealing with it for 30 years. I don't even hear people say that anymore. I mean, there are some salespeople that maybe deserve it, but salesmen are such easy targets. It's always the salesman's fault. They're either selling too much, they're either making too much, they screwed this up, they screwed that up.
You have thick skin to be a salesperson, I guess.
You have to have thick skin, for sure. Dealing with that 90% to 70% rejection and being blamed for everything.
That's a tough job.
It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, speaking of that, when we talked about so many difficulties with sales and things like that, and how hard it is to get a sale, you get blamed for everything. What makes you want to stay in it?
Like I said, it's the passion for winning. There's once you get old, you can't really go fight anybody anymore.
Really? You don't want to be a cage fighter anymore?
I do, but I can't. You can't go fight anybody. You can't go play football. You can't really fuel that fire. At least I couldn't fuel that fire with anything physical anymore. So this is pretty close. It's intense.
Yeah.
It's like living in the fire. There's a lot of zigging and zagging, and like I always say, that sixth sense of thinking and trying to do the right thing, and then nothing is better than seeing your customer be successful.
Yeah.
Nothing. We said it in a couple podcasts ago, we're selling ATM solutions, right? Machines, automation.
It's making money.
We're helping them make money for themselves and be successful and employ their people, and it's rewarding. It's competitive and it's rewarding.
Yeah, I mean, I know I can speak to just being your kid growing up, seeing how passionate and you come home, it's so exciting to get an order, and when there's the long sales processes, we've had ones over the last even just year that it was every night we're talking on the phone and trying to figure it out. It's 10 o'clock at night. You tell mom about it, and then you tell me about it, and then we call back, and then it's in the morning, and it is the competitive. I mean, I'm not directly involved in the sales, but I even get so I couldn't imagine being
it's a lifestyle.
Directly involved
It's an absolute lifestyle, and there's no surprise when I look around our industry and see the people that are successful.
Yeah.
Why they're successful. They're wired exactly that way too.
Very competitive.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yep.
What advice would you give to somebody getting into sales? Actually, two questions there. If someone in general, let's say someone's coming out of college, they want to get into sales. Mm-hmm. What do you think they need to know about the manufacturing industry other than sales being difficult that would make them a good manufacturing salesperson? That's my question number one.
I think everything we're talking about the being genuine and being interested in the customer and caring and all those things are really, really important. I don't want to say that money should be a motivation of the salesman, but in my mind, it really shouldn't be the number one motivation. If making money as quickly as you possibly can coming out of college, in your example, considering getting into machine tool sales or anything in manufacturing, that's short game thinking. If you're in it to build a career and have success that is continuing to go up over many decades, then come on into the industry. Because that's the most important, is that desire, that fuel to competitive spirit, being honest, genuinely caring, of course, learning your products, and all those things. And then the money, the success, whatever it is, whatever shape or form it comes in, that just comes.
It just follows.
That can't be your focus. If
Right.
it is, you're going to be in and out of our industry, pretty quickly.
Yeah. And then last question would then be to the people that are currently in the industry, what is your advice, whether they're an OEM salesperson, distribution, machine shop, we're all selling stuff. What's your number one advice to get through the losses?
Find the win in every loss. Watch the film, per se, of what you did. Make those corrections and watch it work the next time, because it will. It's like I said, if you stick with it long enough, it'll happen. You didn't watch the Masters this weekend probably, but Rory
I did.
McIlroy,
I did.
Did you see?
Yeah, in the
After
playoff
all
hole,
those
yeah.
years, after trying to get that green jacket, he finally got it. And you saw the emotion on the green after
I
he
got the
did it.
chills after that.
Ah.
Whew.
That's the way you should feel when you get an order of machine tools. That sums it up.
You should record yourself
If
doing
it
that one
doesn't
time.
feel that way, then you should go do something else.
Do something else. That's fair. Well, to wrap this episode up, I thought that was good. I do want to thank our winner of our, can't remember which episode, but to guess the bench press.
pressing. Yeah.
So Nathan Pascarella, I think I said his name correctly. He is the winner of the bourbon and the HEH swag. So by the time this episode comes out, he'll probably have received that already. So thank you for watching. He guessed 149, and we did have a winner originally.
Oh, we did. Sorry, Chris Miller. Chris Miller from Kratz and Saunders won, but we took it from him as fast as he won it.
We stripped him of his title.
Stripped him of the title. Sorry, Chris.
Sorry, Chris.
No internal winners to these games. So
Yeah, sorry, Chris. So the final answer was 155. So Nathan, we got that stuff out to Nathan. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to stay tuned for the next episode.
Wait, should we guess my bench press?
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea. Do you want to give out more bourbon for that?
Next
Wait,
episode.
hold on. You don't go to the gym enough to know what your bench
The
press
lines are
is.
too long. I tell you all the time. All right, we'll do it next time.
All right. Thanks for watching. We'll see you soon.
Bye-bye.